everyone, and welcome to Accelerate at Circularity 21. My name is Sherry Totoki, and I am the Director of Startup Programs at GreenBiz. Circular economy entrepreneurs are changing the shape of every industry from all corners of the world, reframing how we think about, fund, and design entire systems. Accelerate is one of the primary ways that we at GreenBiz spotlight these promising circular economy entrepreneurs. Here's how today's session is going to work. You'll hear from 5 entrepreneurs that have 2.5 minutes each to pitch their solutions, after which you all, the audience, will be casting your votes to determine the winner. During that time, we'll also hear from our 2 industry experts, Jessica Long, Managing Director and Chief Strategy Officer of Closed Loop Partners, and Ellen Martin, Chief Impact Officer at Circulate Capital. And ultimately, it will be up to you all to determine the winner of Accelerate. So let's get started. First, you'll hear from an entrepreneur tackling pollution in the apparel industry. Please welcome the CEO of Hue, Michelle Zhu.
Right. Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Zhu, CEO and co-founder of Hue. And we are inspired by the color that's all around us. So whether it be in the clothes that we wear, the food that we eat, or the paint on our walls, petrochemical-based dyes are actually infused into the products that we use and consume every day. And that's what makes it a $33 billion market. Now, thousands of years ago, these dyes were actually extracted from nature, so made from plants and animals in expensive and laborious methods. But today, dyes are made primarily from petroleum in harsh processes that yield color that are often toxic to people, persistent in waterways, and a barrier for achieving circularity. So at Hue, we've developed a bio-based dye technology that enables us to create a rainbow of sustainable color from renewable and even waste sources. And we do that by programming microbes to mirror how color compounds occur in nature. But compared to traditional sources, our colors are sustainable, scalable, and high performing. It's an uncompromising value proposition. So our first color is an indigo blue to eliminate the reliance on fossil fuels and toxic chemicals in the most common item in all of our closets, our jeans. And to date, we've been able to scale our process 300x since first brewing and patenting the technology at UC Berkeley. And we've demonstrated that our solution works as a drop-in to the existing supply chain. We're already collaborating in stealth mode with consumer brands that everyone knows and loves. And they help us to incorporate our technology into dye mills, and together we produce branded lines that feature Hue's cleaner colors. Now, we wouldn't be where we are without our team of top industry experienced mission-aligned scientists, as well as industry veteran advisors who built their own revolutions. So we hope you'll support our color revolution today and stay tuned for the very first pair of cleaner blue jeans powered by Hue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And now heading to recycling in Nigeria, please welcome the CEO of Recycle Points, Mazi Ukonu.
Hello, everyone. This is Mazi Ukonu, and I am the CEO of Recycle Points. Sometime in 2011, myself and my partner were penalized in the UK for recycling wrongly. We paid a huge fine, and that particular embarrassing incident fueled the idea for us to be able to go back to our country and then look into the challenging situation that waste recycling was facing. And as you can see from this particular slide, you will find out that we had very serious waste management crisis being battled by the idea that there were no infrastructures that would be able to handle recycling. And we felt that for us to be able to make recycling possible, we needed to be able to put certain things in place. We need to be able to have accessible infrastructures. We need to be able to make it convenient for people, motivate them, and also have a reward system. That led us to come up with this particular unique program that is actually incentive-based, and people get to be able to earn points. Those points they can accrue over time based on the various items that they recycle, and they could redeem these points, loyalty points, for cash or household items. And uniquely, it actually caught up because now we have over 10,000 household subscribers that are currently leveraging our program to be able to fulfill their environmental responsibility objectives. We have schools and we have corporate companies who latch onto this. You can see from the screen, someone actually in the bottom of the pyramid actually earned points enough to be able to start her own retail business with our program. And again, it clearly speaks that we meet a lot of various metrics to be able to support the environment that we are in. A simple model of collecting, processing, and selling is partially what we do at Recycle Points. And the whole value chain informs us getting the materials to aggregation hubs and also having to be able to sell them. And to date, we have been able to recover about 12,000 tons. We're working with a lot of partners at the moment to include MasterCard Foundation and Coca-Cola. And our ask is that if we could be able to get as little as $100,000, we could be able to make a change in communities with regards to recycling. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mazi. And now heading to a company that's unlocking the rental market all the way from France, please welcome the co-founder of Lizzie, Ana Balles.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Ana Balles, so I'm French with my French accent. What I wanted to share with you is 10 years ago, I saw that non-possession was to be alone. And I created my first company alone. I wanted to do everything for circular economy. And I raised million actually, and I had thousands of clients, but actually, guess what? It didn't work. So what I believe now is that we need to be together to build a network to facilitate sharing and to facilitate circular economy. Our vision at Lizzie is to divide by 2 the production of new products. It's huge, but we know we can get there. Why we need to get there and how we're going to get there with our fantastic co-founders, Tanguy and Tim. We are 23 right now at Lizzie. And what we believe is that there are so many products produced for such an amount of people. You can see here that there is already 1 cell phone per person on Earth. So even babies have cell phones, which is crazy. So that's why what we think is that purchase now have more value than usage, but we know that usage is going to have more value than purchase. And this is what we are working on because we want to industrialize the business model of reuse. How do we do that? We built a SaaS. So this is we are a tech company, 100%. We build front end. We build software for logistic and refurbishment. We have a lot of partners in Europe right now, and we aim to come to the US very soon. What I wanted to share also with you is that there are really people ready to pay for non-possession. Hygiene is really not a problem because we are working on it, and most of the products are not damaged at all when they are rented. Our business model is very simple. There is a setup fee, run of the service, and success fee. That's how we converted our clients, and part of them, there are Adidas, Decathlon from Europe, Maj, I guess you know that, and VF Corp. So we are 20 change makers in our team, and we are happy to share it with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ana. And remember, in just a couple of minutes, you will be casting your vote for the winner of Accelerate. And we have 2 pitches left. Now, switching gears to a company that has a new way of testing EV batteries, please welcome the co-founder and CFO of Rejoule, Zora Chung. She's muted.
By 2030, 6 million battery packs will retire from electric vehicles. Repurposing the battery pack in a second life application is the equivalent of taking a car off the road for over 10 months, but the process to test each battery can take over 5 hours. I'm Zora Chung, Rejual's co-founder and CFO. Our battery diagnostic platform performs a non-invasive test in seconds that can predict battery capacity without sacrificing accuracy. We've already graded over 800 kilowatt hours of retired lithium-ion batteries from delivery trucks, forklifts, and other vehicles. Doing this for the 6 million battery packs in 2030 will unlock over $15 billion in economic value. We've raised over 4.8 million in non-dilutive grants, and 3 million goes towards repurposing used EV batteries in a second life application. Our project partners include Ford, CleanSpark, and Grid Alternatives. Our business model is ironically based on gas, rating as a service. Our product includes hardware and algorithms. There's a one-time cost for the hardware, and the insights from our aging algorithms will be available on a subscription basis. If you're ready to monetize your used battery assets, please contact us. We're also scaling up our technology to perform in-vehicle battery health checks to help assess the residual value for used EVs. We're raising a seed round now to fund a field pilot with our target customers, which include fleet operators and used car auction sites. We've done all of this with our own team, which we fondly refer to as the Rejualigans. We're led by our CEO and my technical co-founder, Stephen, who has a master's in electrical engineering and came up with our core IP. He recruited me to lead the business side because I bring over a decade of experience in corporate finance and strategy. For anyone who's interested, we are recruiting for more Rejualigans if you want to work with this wonderful team and our amazing group of advisors that combined bring over 100 years of experience in the automotive, battery, and technology industry. I hope you will join us in our journey to maximize the value of every battery so we can make clean transportation more sustainable.
Thank you, Zora. And I love the Rejualigans for all of your teammates. And for our final entrepreneur, we have a new materials company. Please welcome CEO of Made of Air, Allison Dring.
Good morning. Made of Air is a carbon negative materials company. We're converting captured CO2 from the atmosphere into thermoplastics, helping consumer brands to decarbonize their supply chains. Materials are a systemic problem in our manufactured goods. Most materials are derived from fossil resources with really high embodied carbon. And the demand for these kind of materials is not going away as our population increases. Durable plastics, unlike disposable plastics, don't have biodegradable alternatives. So manufacturers still rely on fossil resources to produce these products. Made of Air looks at the climate crisis differently. What we see is an oversupply of carbon in the atmosphere. And what that actually means is that climate change is a material problem. So we asked the question, what if we could take our biggest existential threat and turn it into our biggest resource? Made of Air has invented a durable, renewable thermoplastic made of CO2 from the air. This is a carbon negative material. And what that means is we're taking more CO2 out of the air than we emit in making it. It's carbon storing, which means that products that are made from this material become carbon sinks. And it's drop-in ready for as an industrial alternative to fossil plastics. So when you capture CO2 from the air and sink it in a material, what we're essentially doing is making manufactured goods into carbon sinks in the same way that forests are carbon sinks. So now, instead of polluting the planet, manufactured products could actually reverse climate change just by being made. We can do better than carbon neutral. We need carbon negative materials. So how do you make a carbon negative material? Well, we start with wood waste. And wood waste has absorbed CO2 in its lifetime through photosynthesis. But typically, when the plant material, the tree, starts to decompose, that CO2 is going to be re-emitted straight back into the atmosphere. So what we do is interrupt this natural cycle and convert the waste from the plant materials into biochar. And there we have a lock from CO2 into carbon, and that CO2 is not going to go back into the atmosphere. We refine the chars through a series of processes until we get a useful thermoplastic for manufacturing. We currently have 3 polymer compounds aimed at 3 different markets. We're looking at furniture, automotive, and the built environment. We've completed our first engagement projects with consumer brands using the material as a facade for Audi for their dealerships, and also as a pair of sunglasses late last year for H&M. We're engaged with several consumer brands across many industries with multiple use cases. I believe the future of materials is carbon negative. Thank you, and I'm happy to hear from anyone interested in becoming a partner as we expand to our production this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison, and what an inspiring group of pitches. So in just a moment, we'll be welcoming our industry experts on stage to provide context on the startups that you just heard from and how they fit into the broader circular economy. But first, it is time for you to cast your votes. If you look over to the Hop and Poll on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see the form to cast your votes, and it'll be open for the next 7 minutes. So now I'd like to welcome on stage our 2 industry experts. I'll let them briefly introduce themselves, starting with the Managing Director and Chief Strategy Officer of Closed Loop Partners, Jessica Long.
Hi, thank you so much. And I am so excited to be here. As mentioned, I am a Managing Director with Closed Loop Partners. We are an investment firm and innovation center focused exclusively on accelerating and building the circular economy. And as we know, it is a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity. So I'll hand it over to Ellen before giving my comments, but super excited by what I just heard.
Great. Thank you so much, Jessica. And Ellen Martin, please introduce yourself, the Chief Impact Officer at Circulate Capital.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here and agree with Jessica. This has been fantastic. Super excited to dive in and talk to the entrepreneurs. Circulate Capital is an impact investment fund focused on advancing the circular economy, but also addressing plastic pollution in the environment. So our first ocean fund provides debt and equity financing to waste management, recycling, and circular economy startups, primarily focused in South and Southeast Asia today, to help successful business models scale and replicate and connect them to global supply chains.
Great. Thank you so much for being here to both of you. So Jessica, let's start with you. How do these startups that you heard from today fit in with the broader trends you're seeing at Closed Loop Partners?
Well, as I mentioned, I loved everything I heard. I must say I'm blown away by what I heard, both in terms of the diversity as well as the innovation. There were 3 things that I noted across all of the solutions that got me quite excited, both as an investor as well as a fellow citizen on this planet. So one is the fact that the innovations that we just heard cover the entire value chain, or the entire linear value chain that we're trying to make circular. So everything from what we heard around sourcing and production, and especially with new materials, to product use. So we heard a lot around the different ways in which you extend the life of products. We heard a bit about logistics and collection. It's very difficult to do that collection and behavioral change piece that we heard, like with the solution with recycle points, and then all the way through to end of use and what we do with end of use and turning that into new materials. So 1, that was super exciting. 2, I think it's really great that we saw innovations that cover both new materials as well as new business models. So it's not just creating the next sustainable gadget or widget out there. It's really about pushing the boundaries towards challenging what we have today in the linear model, from, again, new materials, new business models, to really shift us in a much more substantial way. And then 3, I loved that we heard organizations tackling some of the most challenging materials. So we saw, as you saw on the screen, plastics, we saw different types of paper materials, we saw dyes and toxic chemicals being tackled, we saw batteries, fashion, textiles. So those 3 elements across all of the innovations that we heard today were really exciting, and I think have the potential to be game changers in the linear to circular shift.
Great. Thank you so much, Jessica. Yes, it was really exciting to see all of these entrepreneurs from every industry and how they're really impacting us in everything that we do. So Ellen, I'll pass it over to you. Can you tell me a little bit about how you work with startups at Circulate Capital?
Absolutely. So one of the things that's really key to our model is, first of all, investing in companies that fundamentally have a viable circular business model in mind. So when I think about that, that for me means that their revenues, their financial success is really driven by the impact. And I think to Jessica's point, some of the broader trends that we see here touch on a lot of different aspects of how impact is generating a business. The way that we work with startups then is to really recognize that at the core that needs to be there, but then beyond financial support, we're also providing operational support to make sure that those great technologies or promising business models actually become world-class operations. And for us, that is very much about connecting back into global supply chains to make sure that we're creating the grand scale of transforming a linear economy into a circular economy. And we do that through partnerships and our investors, which include some of the world's largest brands and companies in the plastics value chain.
Great. Yeah, it's so important to have all of these wraparound services because companies need more than funding. So really important work that you're doing. So Jessica, what's it out to you today from all of the startups you heard from?
That's really tough because, as I said, I'm quite interested in all of them. And to Ellen's point, I think the thing that we both look at is what are those innovations that are both scalable, are strong businesses, and are game changers, right? Some of the innovators pushing the boundaries. I mentioned earlier that I was really excited to see things that cover both new materials as well as new business models. So maybe one that stood out in particular is Made of Air, because it's both a new material and a new business model, and it's a carbon sink. To me, the thing that will be quite exciting is to see how that particular model could scale, because that's definitely an area where should it be scalable at a huge level, it could have a massive impact. So that's just one in particular that stood out. But as I mentioned, all of them were quite amazing and something I'd love to follow up with everybody who presented today.
Thank you. And Ellen, what stood out for you today?
Oh my gosh, so much. So as you know, Circulate Capital invests in multiple markets around the world. So one thing that I really appreciate is that I think about the applications for each of these solutions in different contexts. I think that you have interesting platform solutions like Lise that really facilitates the ability of different manufacturers and brand owners to incentivize circularity to make it possible for them to change, which I think is really great. I also really liked, the fact that Recycle Points is fundamentally, paying attention to the behaviors and behavior change that is really hard to do, but partnering that with some really solid infrastructure. And we need more models like that at scale all over the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're getting down to the end here. So Ellen, who would get your vote?
So I want to know more. Would very much be interested to hear that. I think one of the things that Jessica mentioned that also really stood out for me is that we don't get to solve the problems of too much waste in the world if we don't also solve for climate. And I think that when you have a solution like Made of Air that has a technology that is not just sort of saying, oh, what can we do with playing around with carbon and CO2, but actually applying that in tangible end markets, that's a really promising place to be, particularly as an investor. So if I had to choose one, maybe it would be Made of Air, but I'm definitely interested in talking with all.
Great, wonderful. And Jessica, what about you? Who would get your vote today?
Well, as I mentioned, it probably Made of Air from that exact same potential of looking at that carbon reduction, carbon sink perspective. But as I said, all of them have massive applications across the sector, reinventing the rental model, looking at batteries, which is one of the toughest areas to tackle, the behavioral change points around recycle points and collection, which is so challenging, and then really tackling dying. A lot of companies have tried to go after that. So again, I think all 5 are amazing, and look forward to hearing more about all of them. As Ellen said, I think both of us are leaning a little bit into made of air because of that additional piece around a carbon sink.
Great. And we have our results. So the winner is Made of Air. Congratulations, Made of Air.
Nice.
Great. Well, congratulations again to Made of Air and to all of the participants today in Accelerate at Circularity 21. It's such a pleasure to have you. Join us today at 11 a.m. Pacific time in a breakout. You'll hear from all 5 of the finalists in a Q&A and an interactive discussion. A big thank you to Ellen and Jessica for being here today. And another thank you to all of our entrepreneurs who joined us to pitch today and committing to these tremendous solutions. Back to you, Lauren.